And we're coming back to you live from the park. I'm Sean.
And I'm Zach.
La, 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 rainbow socks. La, 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 la. Whoa! They just keep going until they stop.
Keep going. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Oh, man.
So, Sean, how's your morning?
My morning, man. I mean, I had, literally just gotten out of bed when you texted me.
The perfect time.
Literally, 10:45. The ripe early morning hours.
Right when I was getting out of class. Man, I wish I slept till 10:45. That would have been nice.
But it's been a good morning. I watched some gameplay of Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is apparently out, and I was vaguely disappointed by it, but
Oh,
it's
no.
fine.
No.
And then a band it's kind of a story, but anyways, a band released a song, and I was excited about that.
Cool.
So
Was it a good song?
It was cool. It was.
Or
about,
were you slightly disappointed?
It was no, actually. It was like a rock song about it was about Moby Dick. It's called White Whale. If you want to look it up, it's got a cool animated music video. It's good stuff. So, dude. Anyways,
So now you're gonna be listening to that on
shout
repeat.
out to White Whale by Shadow Academy.
I've never even heard of Shadow Academy.
Yeah, they're it's like I said, it's kind of a story. This guy, he does music with for a comedy band. But he just recently, he's like, hey, me and the guy who do the comedy band, we just started a new band, and this is an actual serious band.
Oh,
and I was
cool.
excited about that. So, anyways, that's all. That's all.
Sounds like you had quite the morning then.
Yeah, how was your morning, Zach? Zachary? Hi. Zakarin?
I'm a Karen. No.
Zakarin, how was your morning?
Well,
I feel like you have 7 minutes worth of story to tell me.
yeah, honestly, I do. I actually have two things to talk about today.
Okay.
I had one, and then this thing happened in class. So I was like, I have to talk about this now.
Okay.
So it's a good thing we're doing it today, or I would have had supper with this thought.
Yeah, release it.
So we got in class, and we were talking about expectancy violation theory. That's what it was.
Whoa, okay.
And basically it's just violating people's expectations of how you should be acting or what you should be doing and stuff like that. And how that relates to communication and nonverbal communication.
It's the word we made up, hypocrisy.
Push.
Yeah, it's that word, kind of. Okay.
So class is going well. I'm taking notes. My teacher's very much a morning person.
Mm-hmm.
She's laughing. She makes jokes. You would love her. She makes puns every single class period.
Oh, good.
And then she changes slides, and it just says activity in bold giant letters with 7 exclamation marks.
It's a nightmare.
And I just knew at that moment. I was like, no. I was like, it's a Friday. We have 15 more minutes in class. Can we not? I was so close, man.
It was almost peaceful this morning.
It was almost peaceful. So we had to get into groups of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then she handed out pieces of papers. And we each had a role to play.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness I got the role I did, because
Okay.
my morning could have been even worse.
Okay.
So there was person A, person B, and person C. I was person A. And luckily my role was I was just an observer.
Oh.
And I was like, yes,
Oh,
thank
man.
you.
It's like when we play werewolf, and I'm like, just let me be a villager. I don't want to have to actually participate.
Honestly? No, but so persons B, their role was they just had to have a conversation with person C, but they just had to keep scooting closer and closer and closer. And then person C, they were trying to get person B to talk about something deep and meaningful in their lives.
Lovely.
And it was so awkward.
Does person B and C know each other's things?
No.
And they
none of us knew what our role was.
Ooh,
Okay.
okay.
So they said the only thing we could tell each other was what person we were, A, B, or C. And so
So
these
what-
two are literally having this like the most awkward conversation
One
I've
is
ever
scooting
seen.
closer, the other one's like, so tell me what you think about where we go after we die.
well, no, and the problem is like he's like, how do I get to that point? Like I can't just like say it, right? So like he's like,
I will.
oh, where'd you grow up? Yada yada, and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that, like trying to ease their way into
Yeah,
it. And this girl, I think her name's Harley, I think. I don't talk to people next to me in
of
class,
course, yeah.
obviously. And so like she's just like, and I didn't know what their roles were either. I was just
Yeah.
like observing what was happening. I was like, and the worst part is I was feeling awkward.
On behalf of them.
No, but the thing is like they expected me to like
do something.
participate.
But you were
Or like have. I just sat there in silence and just stared at them. It was glorious. No, so this girl is scooting closer and closer to this guy, just ever so slowly.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
closer she gets, the guy, like, you can see he's like getting uncomfortable, and he starts looking at me more than he's looking at her. And like, no, seriously, like in his eyes, it was like, please say something, like that way.
Make this stop.
And I just stood there, just stared at him, and like my whole thing was just watching like their nonverbal behaviors, and like he's like bouncing his
Yeah.
leg, and like even the girl, like you could like she was like rubbing
she
her
doesn't
neck
wanna
and
do
stuff,
that.
and she's like, it was so awkward, and like the worst, and like I felt awkward because I knew they both expected me to
Something
like
from you.
anything from me, and I just sat there in silence and watched them. And it was the most awkward like 5 minutes group activity of my life. It was like my nightmare. And I had the good role.
I wish I could have watched this. Oh my gosh. I wish I could have just been like in the classroom window, just like peeking through at everything going on in there.
It was so bad. And like we're like in lines, right? And I'm on the very edge. And so like they're facing each other. And so like I'm just like awkwardly like sitting behind the girl as she's getting close. Like I can't even see her face. Like it was almost like I wasn't even part of like the activity. I
Right.
was just
You
there.
weren't even
And
part of
that
it.
made it even more awkward for me because I was like, they expect me to do anything. And like, anyways, so we were talking about stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I just had to complain about this
That's-
freaking activity because it was
But
so
do you feel
bad.
like based on that, you'll ever forget expectation violation theory?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. And then like we were just talking about like other examples in class
Mm-hmm.
of like talking in an elevator.
Yeah.
Apparently, my professor talks to everybody in the elevators, and she's like, "It's so awkward if I don't talk to people in the elevator."
No, it's
I'm
awkward
like, "No,
if you do.
you're the one making
You're
it awkward."
the problem.
So and we just like a whole bunch of stuff like that. I was like one thing we talked about with nonverbal behavior is called the eyebrow flash, and it's literally just like you use your eyebrows and it can mean like
A lot of things.
tons of different things.
Yeah.
Like in one study it was found that it's like a sign of attraction. Like if you're talking to somebody, you give them the
Right.
eyebrow flash, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
well, like
yeah.
not like
Oh, okay.
it's like a subtle thing.
It's not.
It's not.
Wait for it. Wait. Make sure it focuses. Do it.
There's like water coming down my right eye because of this freaking it's the sun. Glorious.
Perfect.
So yeah, that was my morning, Sean.
Honestly, I wish we could do some kind of evaluation
Okay.
of everything that just happened. And just like, I don't know what I would study with that, but I want to study it. Mainly because I want to force people
I want to force you.
to experience that.
Well, it was funny. My professor
It
was like,
sounds horrible.
she was like, "Go home this weekend and make people feel uncomfortable." No, not too. Like, don't get in trouble for it. But
That's very interesting, Zach. Very.
start scooting closer. No!
So, tell me about people who've died in your life. Just kidding.
Well, it's actually funny because like, two of the people that were in one of the groups,
Mhm.
like they were like really close friends,
Oh.
and so like when she and like they're apparently like it didn't even faze them. Like they were scooting closer.
laughing about
Right,
it,
like-
having a conversation.
Like it didn't even faze them at all. But then like us, like who had no idea who the other people were,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it was super crazy.
So I wonder if we set this up amongst our friends, how
I
people
honestly
would react.
don't think there would be much of a reaction. I like
It's true.
honestly, like I feel like my first thought was like, if I did this to you, like you might be the one person who's like, I'm out of here, right?
Get away from me.
Right, but like if I did it to Jacob and Clay, this would be like, ha ha, go away.
like, oh yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they just lean into it.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, that was my morning. But
Interesting.
in the same class, this is my second thought.
Okay.
We're
moving on, everybody.
We
Just so
are
you know.
moving on. This was on Wednesday.
Uh huh. I remember it.
And
It was a good day.
it's been a while, so we
Well,
pulled out one of these bad
it was a
boys,
day.
Sean. We watched a TED Talk.
Oh,
We're
wow.
back.
You just think you're so much better than everyone else, don't you?
I had to watch
you
this
watch
TED Talk.
you watch TED Talks for classes? Oh, you must think you're so smart. Okay, sorry. Continue.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I had to get it out of me.
And so we were talking about how language affects communication.
Mhm.
And this TED Talk was talking about how our language influences our perception and the way we think. And the person in the TED Talk gave this example of there was, I wish I could remember the name, but there was this culture of people who did not, and their language, they did not have a word for left or right.
Oh.
Like there was just not a word for it.
Yeah.
Instead, they used the cardinal directions.
Always.
And so like they would say like, instead of like left leg or right leg, it would be like my northeast leg or my southeast leg.
Whoa.
And they use these cardinal directions for everything.
That's pretty funky. Okay.
And then they talked about how their perception of time was different as well because of their language. They asked like, or just like organization as well. So they asked them to organize these pictures. Wow, I can't talk. There were pictures of the same person at different stages in their life, from when they were a kid to when they were like super old. And there was like 6 or 7 pictures of like just them aging, right?
Yeah.
And they asked them to like order them. And it's like we were like, all right, like just like left to right or something, right? And what's interesting is that wasn't the case. They always lined up east to west.
Huh.
So like if they were facing east, it would be straight down. But if they were facing north,
then
it would be left to right.
Huh. Whoa.
And so like just like not having
a way to think about that.
Yeah, like there's just not a word in that language for left or right. So like they think about the world in an entirely different way.
Right.
And I thought it was kind of cool because like I've been studying Japanese for 2.5 years now, which is kind of crazy. But like
pretty much a genius.
pretty much a genius.
Go and say one Japanese term. Teach it to us right now.
Sugoi. Everyone knows sugoi.
No, I don't. What is that?
It means like amazing or awesome.
I thought you were gonna say kyosu.
Kawaii.
Kawaii.
The question is,
Kyosu.
what's so funny, because kawaii means cute and kawaii means scary.
Oh, that actually makes sense.
And like it's so funny to hear people say like kawaii. I'm like, no, stop.
Hawaii.
Like you don't know what you're saying.
I'm
Anyways.
going on vacation to Kauai.
Kawaii.
Beautiful beaches. Okay.
Yes, the most gorgeous beaches at Kauai.
All right, sorry. Continue.
No, you're fine.
It's the worst.
And like, okay, so in Japanese, you don't know the tense of something, so if it's present or past tense, until the very end of the sentence. So like in like English, we'd be like, I was or I'm going.
Right.
But you like in Japanese, you do not know until the very last syllables, basically.
Right.
And it's like you have to like you take all this information and then you wait and you wait and you wait, and then you figure out
when they're talking about
like
it.
when they're talking about it or like when something happened.
Yeah.
And so like just like the way they even like structure or like think about sentences is different than the way we do. And so like I guess I never like thought of how much like an impact our language had. And I've even come across this in Japanese where like there is just not a literal translation for some things. Like we don't have the same word. It's like we can like express the same feeling that they're like describing, but we don't have a direct comparison there.
Do you have an example of that? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's actually there's something. It's called yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And basically it means like again tomorrow.
Again tomorrow.
Or like it's basically like a wish.
It's hard to define since you just said it doesn't have a direct definition.
And that's a horrible like that's not even right. It's something you would say like as like after you meet someone and like you're leaving.
Oh, so like you just met them and now it's time to go. So it's like nice to meet you, but not really that.
Yes, kind of. But like there is absolutely no direct like translation there. But like the context of when you would use it is there, and like we understand that context.
Right.
So I just think like it's interesting how much of an impact language can have on even the way like we perceive the world and like reality. And I never thought about that much, and it's kind of like something I'm interested in like looking up some more.
Yeah, that's it. What it makes me think of actually is our philosophy class, our religions class, because like he'll ask a question like, okay, we've talked about Brahman. What is Brahman? And then like he's like it's impossible to answer that, but like go ahead and try. You know, I'm sure if like we were talking to like someone who was actually Hindu, they would like have a way to describe what Brahman is, but for us we're like it's like the force, you know?
Right.
It's within everything and is everything, and it gives life to everything, but we also want to...
But we're already a part of it, but we want to be a part of
yeah,
it.
right. Like so that's just what it made me think of initially. It was just like and that's probably why like different cultures struggle to like understand each other.
Right.
Because like you try to explain something in a new language and there's no correct way to say it, then it's going to come off in a different way.
And I the question I brought up in last class and was like kind of perfect with that, because like we talked about how dharma is, we translate it to duty.
Right.
But I was like, what is the duty of a tree if you're reincarnated as a tree, right?
Yeah.
Like, can a tree have a duty? And so like it's not a one-to-one translation. Like it's clearly there's something else there.
There's some layer that we're missing because of that. I also wonder, kind of branching off of that, but like, I also wonder just if like the way a language sounds can affect how people in a culture act. So not even like just not having words for something. I remember, I think Allison told me this while I was on my mission. She was in like an infant development class or something, and she learned that like a baby at like 6 months old, the way they like cry or make noises mimics like the language of whoever their parent is. So like French babies, they tend to like they raise up a little more. Hello, doggo. Hello, doggo. You're good. So yeah, like the French babies, that their cry tends to go up at the end because that's how French people speak. They go up at the end. So it makes me think of like as well like Xhosa, like their music, especially back in the day and even now, it's like very much it's focused on rhythms rather than like melodies, you know? Like especially ancient African music is all focused on just like drum beats and dancing.
Right.
And even today, some of their more recent stuff, it's like focused on just repeating sounds so that there's a beat there. Which I compare to, you know, the clicks they use in their language. So I wonder if there's like anything like that going on, where just the way the language is structured affects how people think. I don't really know, but
I would argue yes. And actually, there's a quote my professor used last semester all the time, and it was communication is culture and culture is communication. Like you cannot have one without the other.
Right.
And they both like have a key integral part. Because like, again going back to just what I know with Japanese, and the way their culture influences their communication. In Japanese, they'll never just say like no. Like if you like, say you're a missionary or something, knock on a door wanting to come in, they won't just tell you no. They'll say chotto, which means a little, and that's just like it's like it's their way of saying no, but like they won't actually say it.
They don't want to be that straightforward, basically.
Yeah. It's all about like they're being like super polite. It's basically just impolite just to say no.
Right.
Well, like here, like somebody knocks on your door is like they're like, I don't know, selling weed killer or something, like some yard service is like, no, get out of here, and like you don't feel bad about it. And that's reflected in their language, the way they speak. So it's kind of cool.
So then to extend that even further, like. I also think about the variation within the language itself. Because I think the way we speak here in Utah would differ widely from the way people in New York or New Jersey speak. I think the people there are way more straightforward than we are. But compared to like maybe Japan, for instance, we're way more straightforward than them potentially. I don't know, I'm spitballing here, but like that's what I would assume. So like within the language, there can be so much variation, and just changes in culture changes the language itself.
Right, and like that brings me back to like we talked about like cultures, co-cultures, microcultures, in my interpersonal communication class, and I was like, it almost like is the idea like maybe there's like a micro language within a language, I feel like it almost has like the same impact as like a co-culture or a microculture could have.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. Because, like, I mean, what else is slang if not that?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I remember in South Africa, in Cape Town, very popular slang for young men is to go salute, to, like, say hi. They say salute and they do a little salute. But outside of Cape Town, never heard it. Never heard it. But across, like, all of my mission, they say shop shop, which means like cool or whatever you want it to mean basically, but usually means something like is cool. They say shop shop, and that's like across the entire country. And I think even into other African countries that like kind of reaches. So it's interesting that like there's like such small like microcosms of language, but then there's also just such like broad.
Right. It's like, it just varies so much.
Yeah.
I like, interesting thought to end on, I guess. I don't know how much time we have.
Oh yeah, we're there. But.
Perfect. Like, just as we were talking, as like, in our religions class, we talked about how, like, the geography of an area, like, influences their beliefs and their religions there. And I wonder if that same thought can be applied to language.
Yeah.
That'd be something cool to look into, but...
Yeah, that is... Well, I mean, just to branch out of that really quick, I'm sure, like, because basically what we talk about is the fact that the Himalayas kept Hinduism from spreading into northern Asia, right? We kept talking about that.
Yep.
So, like, the spread of language is 100% affected by that, but I wonder if, like, the very root of it, I
feel like it almost would, because, like, here, like, let's say, like, a brand new culture started in Utah, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's around us everywhere? Mountains. We take that to, like, the Midwest.
Yeah.
There's just no mountains.
Right.
Like, they wouldn't have the word if they didn't know mountains even existed, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it like, at least that very surface level would affect a new language.
Yeah.
But,
well, interesting questions. Everybody go home and ponder language.
And then tell me the answers in the comments below.
Yeah, answer Zach's questions, because he's a freaking moron.
That's why I watch TED Talks, okay?
In class today, he didn't even talk once in their activity. Like, what a jerk. But you know what you can do to not be a jerk? Go check out the merch store.
Links in the description below.
Anything else you want to say?
Thank you all so much for watching. I am still Sean.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Speaking, speaking. Everybody loves to speaking, speaking, speaking. Everybody loves to speak.
Kind of like you.
Oh my gosh! Thank you so much for noticing.
Oh, not you, Sean.
Oh, sorry.
Get out of the way.
I was about to be like, I did myself up today just for you. How was classes this morning?
Oh. You don't understand.
Go on.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Okay. Just got so much out of that already.
Are you okay? Most of the class wasn't bad, but there was a specific
There were some moments.
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Wow.
It was brutal.
That's like the name of like some art film. 7 minutes.
7 minutes. 7 minutes of pain. That's going in the trailer.
Well, good. That's why I wrote it just now.
Oh, thanks,
I
Sean.
feel like I pulled that from something, but I'm not sure what. I'm trying to think.
It did sound a little familiar, but
Homestar Runner, maybe? I think it was Homestar Runner.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, you sure wouldn't, because you're a loser. Let's go.
You said you wouldn't tell anyone. What the fetch, man? I hate you.